this is in the Daily Telegraph.
I think it's absolutely awful. We saw that, with Labour in the end years of Labour. What they did is, in terms of saying local authorities can do it, fortnightly, which is absolutely wrong. Local residents and local authorities pay a lot of money to get their streets cleaned. Actually, I think it's absolutely frontline duty of the local authority to make sure their streets are clean. When I was on the local authority as a cabinet member for safety, you work with your colleagues to make sure the streets are clean and tidy.
So the coalition is going to increase local council budgets in order to have weekly collections, is it?
I think what it's going to do actually is to make sure that local authorities, work within their budgets to ensure that what they were doing.
I think we have a coalition split here. I think Ray's putting a very, very positive spin on the story. I mean, the fact is that we had terrible weather conditions. We had the bank holiday. Is any one of the councils couldn't actually meet all their refuse collection?
Well, they said it was a health and safety issue, and many people felt seeing rubbish lying around for a month was also a health and safety issue.
Well, the thing that gets me is that you've got Bob Neal, this minister, pledging to do all he can to make sure we go back to these weekly refuse collections.
Well, reading the Riot Act, really, I suppose,
he hasn't, by the way, he has no power to do that to local government. I mean, he can try and persuade them, cajole them. But at the same time, he's saying we now need these weekly refuse collections, which will cost more. But the LJ reckon that 140,000 jobs from local government will go soon. Thanks to our coalition's local government, I can't blame anyone for it. Our coalition's local government bill last year, the coalition will, councils have £3 billion less to spend. How are they going to afford to do these local refuse?
But I think there is a key point on that in terms of, if you look at urban areas, where the consequences of having this rubbish out there, you've got the issue with foxes out there as well. You've got more rubbish out there. We saw what happened, in London, where, children were attacked.
It's an issue, we agree, but how do we pay for it?
I think what we have to do is make sure the local authorities, are given the leeway, the contracts that are agreed for fortnightly, they're given the assistance from Whitehall to make sure that in these difficult times those contracts are renegotiated.
The trouble is, it's easier for us to talk about devolving power to local government, but actually what the coalition is doing is it's circumventing local government, and it's this whole big society agenda. It's going straight to local people, giving parents powers over schools, and that's taking power away from local councils. And this is happening over a raft of issues in local government. So in many ways, I think the town hall is feeling pretty hard done by it. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's a fact. And I think the local government are going to feel pretty upset when they hear Bob Neal crowing about how they've got to do better, when actually they've got less money to do more.
Yeah, big talking quickly, yeah.
No, one quick thing actually, the local authority in Medway, where I was a council and cabinet member, despite what the previous government said, we kept it to weekly collections because it was the right thing to do. So people had the choice to make, and local authorities, those did it.
You sacrifice something else though to have that, though, don't that? That's the point.
It's getting the right balance right.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to a story in the Daily Express. It was around today as well, which is the fact that women are moving over to Islam, as many as 100,000 converting.
Yeah, the headline is slightly misleading. It says at the top as many as 100,000 converts to Islam are living in the UK. You look down the article, in fact, in the last year alone it was 5,200. Not an insignificant amount. Many of them are women in their late 20s, according to the research. I wonder how many of those are people who are marrying a partner who is obviously Islamic, I don't know. But I think it has to be a good thing. There's so much Islamophobia in the UK, particularly after 9/11 and 7/7, and I think we use Islamophobia quite sort of liberally as a phrase. I think quite often it's actually ignorance and probably racism. And I think seeing women particularly, praying in mosques, wearing the burqa, wandering around high streets in Islamic clothing, will probably break down some of those barriers that at the moment I think probably exist. I mean, it's quite normal to see a black person, Asian person in a congregation on a Sunday in a church. And so I think the more we see white people practicing and preaching Islam, the better, frankly.
But I think also on that very point, coming from an Islamic background, the three Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism and Islam, have so much in common. And the vast majority of Muslims, who are over here, value our British traditions, cultures and values. Those who distort them at the very extreme end, they could choose to live elsewhere. But the vast majority, of Muslims are, law-abiding, in terms of, supporting our traditions and values and cultures. And it quite clearly shows the commonality between the three Abrahamic religions is far more that unites us than divides us.
Well, talking of your Islamic background, certainly the FT does make mention of the Pakistan governor who was killed. Tell us why this is significant and why we should take note of this.
Certainly, I think there's 2 points. Firstly, in terms of after Benazir Bhutto's assassination in December 2007.
And you worked with her?
Yeah, I was a special advisor with Benazir Bhutto. Benazir Bhutto, in her second term in government, tried to deal with the blasphemy laws, because this is linked to the blasphemy laws in Pakistan. Under Section 295 of Pakistan's Penal Code, what it does say is anyone who defames Prophet Muhammad then can be sentenced to death. And there was a case pending before the Lahore High Court where a lady who had been accused blasphemy. Yeah, that is Sam Atasir, and had been accused of blasphemy, was in prison, and he had gone to see her, Sam Atasir, and said to her, look, don't worry, the president has a presidential pardon if you get convicted, and you'll be pardoned from that. And I think it's so important to have progressive, moderate elements in Pakistan. We have at the moment in Pakistan Benazir Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party government with coalition partners, but it's absolutely right and proper that countries around the world who sign up to the United Nations Convention on Civil and Political Rights stand by them so people from the minorities can practice that. But this is certainly a major blow for the progressive elements in Pakistan, where we need to ensure that there's stability, there's law and order, there's a rule of law, and this is a setback, but I think the overall PPP government has to move on and make sure that the persecution that comes about from blasphemy laws is rectified.
Very quickly, one other story completely different. It's in the Daily Star of the future of David Beckham.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we do a segue to this story. Apparently Beckham is about to sign up for Spurs, so having sort of the tabloids having done without him largely for the last few months, well, the last few years, of course, they're going to have Beckham, Posh, and all his children to.
I'm not sure we know this for sure. I thought there were 14 clubs trying to bid for him. The Tottenham Hotspur are favourites, but who knows? There's others up there. Blackburn, for example.
Well, Daily Star
LA
can't be
Galaxy's
wrong.
still got to release it. We'll wait and see, shall we? Lots more stuff coming in the next part. We'll leave David Beckham there. We'll wait for more information on that. But also still to come, find out why this claims the contraceptive implant failed to work in hundreds of women. Back with more on that story to come.